Hey guys, Justin here. Quick note, it's going to be a second lap qualifying. First is just way too slick for it to work in my opinion. So you're going to have one shot at this. Make sure not to slide your tires on the outlap. And don't forget, if this video is helpful to you in any way, please leave a like on it because it's the #1 way to help out my channel. This unfortunately.
Yes, it is.
Alright, I'm gonna drive backwards through pit road so I get an extra lap.
Oh my. Oh, okay. Okay. Man, it tacks out a lot. I don't like that.
I think that this is, the gearing is one notch too short. You hit the limiter right after the start finish line.
For a hot lap, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a second and a half faster than Derek Justice. Let's go, man.
19.68.
Now it's my turn to take a screenshot.
Too late.
Oh, 3/1000. Alright. Jeez.
19.06.
I don't like that.
There we go.
I don't...
Alright, so let's take a look at that. So you can see I'm not doing the normal way of recording today because my OBS is set up for the video that I'm making for the flipping contest, and I don't want to undo that scene or make a new scene. So I'm just going to do it in the replay here. So the thing about this lap here is it pretty much has to be done early in the session because the track is a little bit faster towards the beginning of the session, which is fine because that's when qualifying is. So this is pretty indicative of what qualifying will be like. So if you're looking to practice hot laps, either start up your own test session or join a really new practice session. All right, so for turn 1 here, or sorry, for the run up here, we're going to do the short track maneuver that we talked about before, like at South Boston, where we start up really high and we turn off the wall and full throttle, and that should get us a lot of momentum. And I think you can see I'm on my first replay, that was about a couple hundredths better than the relative going into this corner. So next thing we're going to do here is for turn 1, what I like to do here is we like to aim for this seam. There's a tiny seam here that you can see with my mouse in between the white line here and the yellow line here. So I want to aim my lefts for this seam. Let's take a look at the left front suspension. So you can see I get really close to that seam with my left front, and that's what I'm aiming for, man. That's pretty good aim, honestly. So we'll go back into cockpit here. And so now that we're on this, you can see my brake, I drug the brake. I started it at a 30%. And then once I started getting down the hill, I move to that drag. And so I use that drag to stay along the seam. And then I let the car turn down the hill by only holding it at 2/3 throttle. You could try forcing the throttle full here, but this is when you would get loose. So that's probably not what you want because you're probably sliding the tires and losing time. So what I like to do is I like to hold at about 2/3, 60% throttle, let the car turn down the hill on exit, and watch the left front here. Now we're almost getting all the way to the yellow on exit. So we're just making that super late apex. So we manage the bumps by kind of driving down the hill going towards the late apex. And then we drive straight off the corner on full throttle. And all we need is to guide it a little bit, but even with this angle right here, kind of heading towards the wall, you should be fine just guiding it with full throttle. Okay, so for the next 3 and 4 here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to aim at the seam here, and then with this time we drive it a little farther up. We go back into the left front suspension here. So you can see, get to the seam and then let the car slide the hill a bit more and then turn back down the hill, back across the seam. So that's kind of what we want our left front to be doing there. So let's look at that in the cockpit. So we drag the brake just like turn 1, We let it go up the hill a little bit, and then we put extra wheel input into it when we put the throttle back. So half throttle, more wheel input to get to turn back down the hill. And once we turn back down the hill, once it starts going back down the hill, we can start unloading the wheel. And then once we can see the start finish line, that's when we can do the full throttle. So you see here, I kind of gradually go from half, and we're gradually raising the throttle, gradually, then full throttle once I can see the start finish line. And we kind of bully it to make the final corner exit. And that's when we carry enough speed, and it'll get us across the finish line. All right, let's take a look at the race. All right, so the race is over here. We got second to Ryan, who ran a really good race, and honestly, I think this race might have been won at the qualifying line because the passing here was not great. So he ran a really good lap. He ran a 09, I believe, in qualifying, and we got a 1-1. So we just started a little bit behind him, and we got a good start here. So I want to show you guys my tire saving line for the beginning because it's a little odd, and I'll show you how that didn't come to matter at the end because this track, one moment can mean so much. So we go into the cockpit view, and let's go to lap 3 or 4. Okay, so you notice that I'm gonna go straight to the bottom a little bit more, and that was probably more of an example of almost a qual line. So look at 3 and 4 here. I kind of dive bomb the corner and lean the car on the right front because this setup wears the tires pretty evenly, but it wears them more on the right rear than the right front. So what I like to do is I like to run this arcing line this diamond line that puts more on the right front than the right rear. So you see I slide up the track and then drive the car kind of straight off. And this helps the car not get loose, and it puts more of the wear on the right front. Now, this is counterintuitive to, like, for instance, last week in Michigan, where we don't want the car on the right front, we want it on the right rear. But on short tracks in the Arca car, we actually want to lean the car on the right front in most scenarios. So you see I'm running this sort of diamond line where I'm dive bombing entry and getting that car on the right front. And it's making up really good time. If I was in front right here, I would be pulling away most likely. So now I'm going to show you some of the woes of being second, and that's trying to pass. So the exit of the corner is so important for this that if you are entering low on the bottom and get choked off, you just cannot keep up your momentum. So we'll take a look from Chopper here, and we'll see I tried to set up a pass here. So I saw that he dive bombed the corner, so I'm like, okay, he'll have a pretty weak exit if he dive bombs it like that. So I moved up and tried the second line. I tried to cut under him and kind of make a move into one. So I had a really good run here. I get my nose under him, and we get a decent corner, but it's just not enough. That second line is such a good defensive line because it's more or less the optimal line that there's really not much you can do in this. You kind of just have to force him into a mistake. So we go back and we try this maneuver a little more, just try to force him into a mistake. And Ryan's credit, he had cars on his bumper for almost the entire race, and he made 0 mistakes, and that's what it takes. So he did exactly what it takes to win here. And so here's the moment that was the beginning of the end for me, and that was when I hit a bump slightly the wrong way, and that little slide there is enough to heat up the tires and pretty much ruin the rest of the race. So you noticed how when we were going before, there was no sliding at all. Everything was great. See, I think I just have a little bit too much wheel in here. See my angle? I think that's just a little bit too aggressive of an exit. And because of that, right here, I'm sideways, and that's going to heat up the rears to the point where you cannot run how you used to be able to run. And you can see here that I basically was losing time ever since. But then once we cool down the tires, because you are able to cool down the tires if you run very conservatively for a couple laps. So I was able to catch back up to him, and I said, okay, my tires don't have another episode like that in them, so I'm going to need to make a move now because I don't think I'm going to be able to pass him because I think he's running too good of a race. So I did kind of a fake move there, didn't go for anything. And then finally, getting back to his bumper, We should be soon here. Oh, here we go. We go for the setup again. We go for the high to low. We catch him running the bottom. We get a really good run on him. We get below him. Now let's go let's go to chopper here. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to need to door him. Because honestly, I think that's the only way to pass for the lead. And it's going to be a little dirty. So I barely touch him. And this was when my sentence, I said, okay, well, if he's not going to make a mistake, then I really shouldn't be just moving him out of the way for the lead. So I kind of backed out of it at the last second. But if I really, really wanted this pass and I wanted, and it would allow people mad at me and kind of get the win in a dirty way, you have to get to this situation, and honestly, you just have to run them up the hill. You have to pull a Denny Hamlin, Ross Chastain type maneuver. But that, honestly, in my opinion, that's what it takes, because that second line is the preferred line. The other way to pass is if you could somehow get to their outside off the corner, but I honestly don't know how to do that. So, and right here, I wasn't really used to choking off an exit under somebody, and we four-wheel slid again. Good save by us, but we gave up second, and we gave up basically the rest of our tire life. So that was pretty much us out of contention. We had worse tires the rest of the way because of those two moments, and we're just kind of managing. And sucks for Will, he had a connection HDMI issue, so he had to drop out of the race with like 5 to go or so. So we ended up getting second out of that, but Ryan was able to pull away because his tires were obviously better because he had no moments like that. So really, I think the moral of the story is you really want to qualify first, and if you qualify first and someone behind is showing speed, as long as you're mistake-free and they're courteous enough, you're not going to give up that lead very easily. So that's a good lesson for defending here. Qualifying is very important, but other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.